USC getting healthy and a familiar face returning to the Coliseum. Your call's next. Welcome back, everybody, for another episode of the Conquest Call-In Show. Tonight, we're joined by Jamal and Ryan. So we have a three-head monster going into the show. Guys, how you doing tonight?
Excellent. Doing great.
Well, Timbo.
Yeah, what's up? Good to see the three of us again.
Yeah, it is good to see us back again. And speaking of back again, it looks like USC is going to have back their star phenom freshman everyone's been waiting for. Jahkeem Stewart is now officially healthy and most likely going to start the game. Play in the game. A lot of people are hoping he is going to start. But I'm interested to see if the defensive line can have the performance like it had. Do you guys think that they're up for another 5-sack performance, or do you think that the addition or possibly the return of the great Clay Helton may stop them from getting that lofty goal?
Go ahead, Jamal.
No, I mean, I think it's going to be more business as usual, guys. This is a Georgia Southern team that, might not be quite, where Missouri State is, but not far off. So I'm expecting more of the same. We saw Cam Fountain do such great things. We saw Shelby do such great things. Tompkins as well. I think Jahkeem is gonna add to the party here Saturday at the Coliseum.
Yeah, I agree. These games are so hard to gauge going into like the competition level. I mean, this is a team that lost 42-14 to Fresno State just last week. Fresno State lost like 31-7 to Kansas. So like, how good are they really? So hard to gauge. I don't like projecting, I guess, disrespect at all to an opponent, but I don't think this should be a game that the USC Trojans should slow down from what we saw last Saturday. So Tim, in terms of the defense, yeah, I mean, they hopefully will surpass their 2024 sack total after this game. Between last week and this game, hopefully they can surpass that number. So Tim, my question for you, does Jahkeem get on the board? Does he get a sack in his first ever game at the Collie?
It's a pretty veteran offensive line. I mean, we are down, I don't want to downgrade the thoughts of the offensive line for Georgia Southern, but they are a veteran squad. But that's a good question. I'm thinking he's gonna get his snaps, I think, but he's coming off that injury, so he might be on a pitch count. I'm not gonna predict against him. I'm gonna say he tallies one. I'm gonna say he's jacked for it. He gets in there. There's no denying that talent. If he gets the opportunity, yeah. Let's say it. Let's say he's gonna get that one off the board his freshman game. How about that?
Love that. That's great. So,
one thing I do know is that they're going to run all over this team. If you guys watched any of that game against Fresno State, you saw that there is absolutely, it'll look familiar. There's no run defense.
I was waiting for the first Clay Helton insult from Tim. It took 2 minutes.
I listen. I'm on record saying, though, fans out there, I'm on record saying, look, I don't want the booing. That's just a bad look. Act like a Trojan. Show some class. If you don't want to give a nice little, like this little clap when he comes in, just sit on your hands. Because honestly, I mean, I hate any booing in the Coliseum. I've never been a fan of booing the opposing team when they come in. I'd just rather just ignore them. Like, we're just all about business and we're going to kick your ass. We don't need to boo anybody. I think that would be a shame. The guy did not hire himself, did not retain himself, did not pay himself all that money. That was just, as we knew for a while, self-sanctioning. First we got sanctioned by the NCAA. Then we decided to sanction ourselves and make some really poor decisions in the athletic department. So to take that out on a guy who, I mean, I'm pretty sure by all accounts, he's a great man. There's no way in hell that he's, didn't give it his best. Clearly he wasn't up for the job. And then, hey, the Peter principle, right? You go, you give it a shot. But if you guys have ever met any head coach at any level, these guys put their blood, sweat, and tears in this stuff. So he probably knew this was his shot, and I'm sure he gave it his best shot. Just unfortunately, he wasn't up for the task.
Yeah, well, and then I'll toss to you, man. But I think one telling thing, and that you can tell about kind of Clay Helton in terms of his coaching pedigree, and like how it went versus whether he was just not a good coach or just not up to the challenge, I guess, in terms of that pedigree. When you look at like the past coaches, even before him, where they ended up now, like Sark at Texas, right? Lane Kiffin obviously had Tennessee, the Raiders. Now he's at Ole Miss. Not saying that Clay Helton can't get back to that, but that Georgia Southern, like clearly there was just, he was not up to the program level to coach that level of program. Whereas guys, I think like Kiffin and Sark showed they had talent. They just had their own blunders that they couldn't get out of their own way. Like they had their own mishaps and mistakes at USC and other issues. Clay Helton didn't have issues. Like he was a great, I think, football coach and person and leader. He just wasn't quite built for the stage of USC, which is why he's at the tier he's at now, which probably is where he should be. Is that making sense? I'm not trying to say it like disrespectfully. There's just a different pedigree, I think, when it comes to coaching prowess. What do you think, Matt, man?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I'm enjoying some of the commentary. Just quick 20-second segue on Missouri State versus UCLA. I agree. It would be a toss-up at this point.
Yeah, you're catching strays. You're catching strays, man. That's
a last-second field goal at this point. I don't know who's kicking the last-second field goal. But, in terms of, Helton, look, it's, I think you guys said it best. At the end of the day, he provided a bit of a moral compass too, and I think that there's an element here. At a time, university was trying to sort of stabilize. They had sort of lost themselves a little bit as a larger university. We knew he wasn't the long-term solution. He's a really, really good man, highly respected. And I hope that we show some class to him, here on Saturday. I mean, at the end of the day, the nuances are there. The asterisks are there. Tim, you said it best, but since Keyshawn, was at campus the last 30 years of USC, only 2 head coaches have ever won the Rose Bowl. It's Pete Carroll and Clay Helton, and since Pete, only one guy's won the conference, since 2009, it was Clay Helton. So, the book, he has a chapter in the history, the decorated history of USC football. Obviously it didn't end well. He probably shouldn't have had the job in the first place. To our points, we don't need to rehash that, but a great man. And I also would like to say that I think Lincoln Riley has been a class act this week, particularly with some of the questions around Clay and just how he's answered those questions, handled himself, shown a lot of empathy, a lot of grace. So I hope we as fans kind of, give him an applause, frankly, and then sort of be on our way here in terms of another one-sided matchup. But I think we've moved on as a program. He has as well. It's kind of a win-win. I mean, Clay got paid, and he's hopefully in a job where he can be sort of set up for success, and SC's thinking bigger things. So all's well that ends well, hopefully, and hopefully we show him some respect.
Yeah, we got a super chat. Thank you so much to our buddy Kristen. Thank you, Kristen, for the $5 super chat. Fight on. Appreciate you being here. Longtime supporter. Maybe we'll get a second call from him later on. He called in for the first time in a long time. I think it was last week. So thank you so much. Appreciate the super chat. Well, now we have it here. They're asking right now. We didn't have you, Ryan. What was your prediction? I said 10-2. I'm super optimistic, Tim. I'm really, and this was before I saw the offensive line. Granted, we don't know what that offensive line can do. Let's face it. The competition wasn't what we're going to see in the Big Ten, but I'm still very bullish on the offensive line. And I'll tell you one reason why I'm really excited is the run game. But Jamal, do you have a season prediction?
Yeah, Tim. I mean, I think I sort of have maintained this for a while now. I got the team going 9-3. And I think that there are going to be a couple tough ones on the road. But I think overall this is going to be 9-3, 7-2 in Big Ten play, and right there, right on the line, either just in or just out of the college football playoff. But I got the team at 9-3.
And then Ryan, you said 9-3 as well. Oh, we don't have your audio.
I don't even remember muting myself, but I think I was coughing. I'm still battling this cough, but yeah, I've been 9-3 like all summer, but I'm kind of, I think after our last show, Tim, when we did the Collins, I was kind of starting to lean 10-2, just more so on the rest of the college football landscape than USC, who they are. Cause we haven't, we've only seen Missouri State, but I think watching some of the other teams, I'm like, I don't know if I feel maybe bullish on some of those other teams anymore. So I'm kind of leaning 10-2 now.
I'm way out ahead of this thing, but it could go either way. I mean, obviously, there's a lot that goes into a season. I mean, we see what our team is. There's the injury factors, a lot of things. For 10-2 and even better, it's going to have to be a really clean injury luck season for USC. My biggest worry again is I'm really excited about the offensive line, but that offensive line can go sideways pretty fast. I do like the fact though that Killian O'Connor is really stepping up, because we saw, we know what Jean-Marie Reed, he could definitely be a solid center, but having those two guys there, man, all last year I was crossing my fingers, worried about the center position. But this year with Killian ready, I'm a lot more bullish on it. And I do. And by the way, I am really excited about the guards. I liked what I saw from the guard play. I liked what Banuelos did in the game. I thought he had some really nice blocks. He did have one probably wish he could, one rep he probably wish he could have taken back. But I really do like the way he played in the game.
Hey, Tim, he had that, if I'm not mistaken, Banuelos had that nice pull on Kalon Miller's 75-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
He was the guard pulling across the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
That was nice. That was fun to see. Love
and
seeing
Hayden
those
Streeter
pulls.
too. I mean, those two guys coming off of injury. I don't know. I'm really excited. I'm really excited about the offensive line. I hope I'm not jinxing them, but I do think they have some depth. But I'll tell you what, if the injury bug hits that O-line, especially at the tackle positions, we might have to reschedule or reshape our predictions for the season. But overall, what were your predictions? What was your take on the offensive line, Jamal?
Yeah, no, I think did really well. With these first couple games, Tim and Rye, just really hard to gauge. With just the level of competition. I'm super excited with how the team looked on all levels, and the offensive line in particular. Putting up 73 is no easy task, no matter who you're playing. But sometimes I have to also kind of take a step back and say, Missouri State finished 4th in the Missouri Valley Conference last year. This is sort of a middle MVC team. It's not like this is we were playing North Dakota State or South Dakota State. One of these teams that are truly at the upper echelon, of the FCS. So I have to sort of pause a little bit there. And I think, that first gauge, I think for me is going to be, the Michigan State game. I think these first 3 are going to be business as usual. And I think that's also to segue slightly, but sometimes you're in a no-win situation playing a game like this, because if you win by as much as SC did, you win by 60, everyone's like, well, it's Missouri State. You don't win by 60, everyone's like, well, what's wrong with you? And I think that's part of why, the polls this week were so egregious in terms of dropping SC2 spots. I don't understand that for the life of me. I could understand staying flat, but I can't understand for the life of me going down 2 spots. I mean, there's some bias going on there for sure. But Tim, overall, I mean, it was a really clean game on the offensive line. I like the variety. I like the depth. But just kind of need to see a little bit more against some higher level competition before I can make kind of a strong, credible opinion.
Oh, Tim's
sorry, guys. I was grabbing a call there. You guys what? So do you guys want to break out some calls?
He's not paying attention to me. What else?
No, I absolutely was. I absolutely was. I just sometimes I'm doing the multitasking. That's the thing. You see me look down and I mute myself. That means I'm grabbing a call. But
yeah,
we do have a first caller. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Caller, you there? Hello.
Scared him off.
Oh, maybe they decided not to. Oh, my bad. There you go. Hey, caller. Hi, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. I had you turned down a little bit.
Oh, no worries.
So what's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Kyle from California.
Kyle.
From California. I called last week.
Kyle, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so I think calling you last week, I kind of what I wanted to with Mava. He looked good. The one thing that I saw missing was the linebackers didn't fill the hole when the running backs hit the side of where the tackles kind of filled it. The defense looks sound, but linebackers look like they just need to play a little bit tighter. And everything looked really good. I mean, there was the one blown coverage. That was it. So I just wanted to say fight on, and it looks looks pretty good, and just a good. It's a good first game. So yeah.
Great call, Kyle. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate the call. I'm with you on that linebacker thing. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on that. I saw a couple of times. Now it was early, especially early in the game. It looked like the linebackers got a little bit overzealous, got up, feel a little too far on that big. If you remember that early run off the left side, did not play gap sound. One thing when we had the media day at USC, Rob Ryan was quick to say we will be gap sound, and they will be. And for the most part, they did play well. But it did seem sometimes that if there was one group that I had to nitpick on the defense, it would definitely, you had like he referred to, you had the one gaff where you had the blown coverage on the touchdown. But if there was one group that, man, maybe because I just had such high expectations, Jamal, that may have let me down a little bit, it would have been the expectations I had for the linebacker room. Oh, sorry. Early on, I did like some of the stuff like Matai Tagoai, dude. That guy, he came in on special teams, and then on that play, I ISO'd on him for a picture, and I was watching, and I blew it. I had the wrong shutter speed, but he's at the line, and then he's engaged in he seals the outside, so he turns the ball carrier back inside. He spins around, takes 3 quick steps, comes from behind, and strips the ball. I mean, for a true freshman to play like that, sky's the limit for that guy. Put a little bit of weight on him, and I'm telling you, I think he might be starting next year. But overall, yeah, I was not overly impressed with the linebacker play. Oh, sorry, and Newbie played well as well. Sorry.
Yeah, let the team tackles. Go ahead, Jamal, if you want to talk.
No, I mean, well said there, Tim. I mean, I think, that first drive left folks with a bit of a sour taste in their mouth, to kick things off. Obviously, there's a lot of juice, first game and whatnot, but Gentry missed the tackle early. Then there was sort of, lack of gap integrity on that toss play, and just felt overall that maybe there was a little bit more running room for Missouri State from time to time than needed to be. So I think, getting into the drawing board there, and making sure that the gap integrity is there, that they're sound, I think is going to be critical moving forward. But, nothing that isn't correctable, nothing that isn't fixable there. I mean, I think one unit that didn't get maybe an A+, on Saturday was probably the linebackers for sure. But, I expect them to be a much more clean sheet here this week against Georgia Southern.
I would have also liked to see the corners play a little tighter. I mean, we are talking about, there weren't these dynamic, you didn't have Jordan Addison on the other side of the line. It just seemed like they were really giving them a lot of stuff underneath. I would have liked to see them play a little more aggressive, but I mean, what do you say? They only gave up 13 points, so I don't know what I'm complaining about. Ryan, what were your thoughts on linebacker?
Yeah, excuse me. Well, I think a little bit even last year in this Dantlin system, and I'm trying to remember back to even when he was at UCLA, but it kind of seems like a lot of games, like that opening drive, they play really soft to kind of just see what the offense does, and then they kind of build on that and kind of adjust their coverages. And it's almost like a cat and mouse game, if you will, at the open. Because I do remember that a lot, like at opening games, playing really soft and sometimes first, second drives, and then really getting aggressive after that when they're kind of get a feel of the game and a feel of kind of what the offense want to do. Specifically, in that LSU game last year opener, how aggressive and much more, man on man and tight coverages they were later in that game. So I don't know if that was just a product of kind of that, kind of just seeing, all right, feeling it out in the beginning and seeing. But I agree. Obviously, a team like that, you want to just see like, let's just shut down from the get-go. We don't really need to see what they're giving us and play this X's and O's thing. I don't need to add much more on the linebackers. I agree. Nothing was like egregious, but certainly I think some things to clean up. I like seeing Tamir Robinson out there. I thought he had a solid game, and Jaden Walker, I think, had some nice plays as well. But you definitely nailed it with Matai. I mean, man, from a true freshman, the true freshmen all around the board, guys, like from Nick Hines on the opening drive, from, Harry Dalton got some run, not as much as the other running backs, but then defensively, when you just see secondary and even just first playing times, like Marquise Gallegos was flying all over the place with his hair on fire. So the youth of this team was extremely exciting to see. And then last thing I'll say, because I'm sure we'll pivot away from this game anyway, is, we were all there. I know you were there as well, Madman. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember seeing this late in a game with the game this much in hand, still this much fire and intensity from a USC school in quite some time. And obviously this was the younger group in, but just seeing how the sideline was reacting, like you could hear the yelling, like what the players were saying, because, you know, the crowd kind of fizzled out by then. It wasn't as loud in the crowd. I don't remember it being that intense in the last few years when the game was so in hand. So I just think, I think it was your dad, Tim, last week that called in asking about the intention of this team and kind of the motive of this team. And I think that spelled it out right there. The intensity being up 62-13 at that point and still just going hair on fire all the way to the whistle. So yeah, just last point on that. I thought that was cool to see.
Yeah, that's good to see. And I did like it. And Jaden really, we're talking about his evolution, not just on the field, but off the field. His, you know, just his excitement, his authentic excitement on the sidelines there. But I don't want to be the Debbie Downer on this, but I want that same kind of juice and fire when they're down 10 points in the third quarter, you know, or something like that. So it's easy to get jacked at home when you're up by 50 points. You know, that's great to see. I do like that. Where the metal's gonna be tested, as I say, you're on the road, you're down by, you know, 2 scores in second half, and you put together a drive to get back in the game. That's what I do believe that we're going to see this team. And, you know, Coach True has been really an interesting add. Everything I've heard from him, just the vibe that he's giving, the cutting no corners, doing everything the right way. It looks like this team is very focused and detail oriented, but yet still loose enough, like we saw late in that game, to have some fun, Jamal.
No, totally agree. I mean, Gallegos looked like Taylor Mays out there, you know, on those back-to-back plays. I mean, it was sort of remarkable. Matai was looking like Ray out there. I mean, it was sort of a lot of flashbacks there in the best of ways. And, you know, I think to your point, Ryan, you know, it speaks to team culture, and everyone was really excited for each other. They knew this was going to be a game that you were going to get a lot of run. And so, you know, I think there's also kind of an enthusiasm there that comes with it. So, you know, hopefully there's sort of a wire to wire type of element there. The one nitpick I'll say, you know, that I've got, just because we got to have something to talk about, right? I mean, and so, you know, I'd love to see the playbook open up a little bit in terms of the passing game this week, just to see a little bit more optionality from Mava. You know, what I saw from Mava, a lot of single read throws. Now, it's a product of, you know, who was on the other side. There was some soft coverage on the other side. So he went with who he wanted to go with. But there was a lot of single read throws. And I'd love for Jaden to stay in the pocket more. You know, I think sometimes he just has a natural tendency to roll to the right, even when he doesn't actually need to. So those were 2 things that I saw where would love to see kind of some multiple progression plays this week. And, you know, can Mava just kind of stay in the pocket a little bit more and really sort of work on those mechanics. So that's something that I'm kind of looking for this week to build upon.
To that point, though, I mean, one thing I did see, I do see your point, by the way, but one thing I did see from him that I was missing last year was that decisiveness.
Yeah. Like
right away, when the linebackers came on that big Lake McCree, you throw it in open space, boom. He just hit that pass right out of the middle right away. No hesitation. A read option, those look a lot cleaner. No hesitation. He sees that the end biting down. He's going to keep it. I just, you know, on that touchdown, I really like the way that he just seems a lot more confident. You know, there just seems more confident in his footwork too. Like, I know he's worked a lot on his footwork and his release and everything in the offseason, but you could see that he felt not just confident with the offense. And there were a couple of times where he had to come on. I mean, it wasn't just one read. He did go through his progressions on a couple of times where he did go and scan the field and went to a second or even a third receiver. But again, the wide receivers, they were wide open. Yeah. Gabe did a good job on a tweet he put out. Just showed, I mean, Mekhi Lemon's an amazing route runner, but it just showed him just daylight. You know, it's like he's out of his break and there's like nobody within 5 yards of him. So it's gonna, once you start playing, you know, the Michigans and the Illinois teams, you know, and Notre Dame, that window is going to shrink, obviously. But I'm glad we have these ramp up games. And I don't know, Ryan, what did you see? Did you see any positive leaps from him from last year in that game?
Yeah, I don't think I need to add a ton more to you said, because I agree. I just think the calmness, I think, was very clear. And again, it's, we're taking this all with a grain of salt, obviously. Like, we know what this competition is. So I don't want anyone being like, oh, this is all of a sudden the Heisman favorite because of this game. But you can see, I think, clear steps in the right direction. And what I saw right away, guys, and I don't know if you all thought this, first play, right? Like, scrambles out, ball's way outside, goes to the right, throws across his body, the middle, and you're like, oh boy. Obviously, it ended up being a completion, so it worked out. But that was one of those, like, okay, first play of the game. Is this like similar to what we saw last year? And after that, it was very, I thought, calm, cool, collected. Going through a couple progressions on some different passes. I remember there was one where he hit Mackay, who made a toe tapping catch, but he was wide open on the sideline. And that was like his third read in that one, as he's looking to the left, goes middle, and then goes right over to Mackay. So there were some instances of seeing that. We've talked about many times, we know the arm talent. We know how special the arm is there. Would have loved to see that deep connection to Mackay, the one overthrow that he had, which, was just barely out of reach, but obviously the right read and a great play call from Lincoln. So, but yeah, what can we take from this game? Improvement. That's all you want to see out of games like this, is our guys doing what they should against inferior competition. And are we seeing improvement from some of the things that they didn't do well last year? And now, will that improvement be the same against better competition? This week is a better competition. I don't know, but as long as we see that consistency going, I think that'll be good. And I hope, guys, I don't know about you, like, obviously we'd love to see this game in hand. We'd love to see the youngsters, but I kind of hope the starters actually play 3 quarters this game, because you almost don't want to go into like league play only playing 4 full quarters in 2 games. Like, you want to have maybe a little bit more run on you. I know it's Purdue, but still, you're going into the Big Ten play on the road. So I kind of hope we get to a point where they're not, because of the competition's too close, but just, get a little bit more run and see 3 quarters out of the starters.
More than anything, see that offensive line get those meaningful reps together. Well, those game day reps together on the field. Yeah, that's going to be important. But I hope it's not true, but there's a good chance we're going to need some of these young guys down the road. So them getting some snaps early on is a good thing as well.
For sure.
Ryan, I don't know how much luck you're gonna have with that one, though. I think this game, I can see Wayman Jordan just running wild for the entire first half, picking up 150 yards in the first half, and then probably sitting him out. And USC's up probably, 28-3 at halftime. So I just don't know. I don't know how much we'll see of them in the second half, but I agree with you. I do think slowly they might get that a little more in that third quarter, because I would like to see the offensive line really, really get some work before we head out to West Lafayette.
Tim, where were you? Like, Madman, your seats are what, in the kind of southwest
I'm
corner?
next to the tunnel.
Yeah, my directions are all off. I think it's southwest. But USC was coming towards you on Wayman's first run. Tim, where were you on the field? Because that first run goes through the tackles, and then that one step and then cuts right.
Yeah,
I remember seeing it from my vantage point, just being like, oh, this is gonna be fun to watch this season. Just that one balance. Sometimes you see one little thing and you're like, ooh, yeah.
I was in the end zone, so he was coming right at me, and yeah, it was. He's got it. He's got that balance. He's one of those guys that just seems like you're gonna have to wrap him up to take him down. He's gonna bounce right off guys, and just the more than anything, it was his vision. It just seems like he is really out in front. He knows where he's going, and I just can't wait. I don't want to get too hyped, but that's my prediction for this game. I think Wayman Jordan's going to go absolutely off in this game. Just watching that defense I watched against Fresno State, and you put 2 and 2 together, especially with this offensive line, big dudes that would love to go out there and smash guys on the second level. I think that he's going to get a lot of yards in this game.
Well, what's special about him is sort of twofold, right? I mean, one is it's that low center of gravity. So the tackle target is so small. And you as a linebacker, as a defensive back, you have to get sort of smaller to be able to tackle him. And those guys are always so difficult. And then when you sort of factor that in with just sort of his side-to-side agility and the strength, it's a very, very unique combination. Tim, it reminds me of, a guy we had a hard time with about 15 years ago, Quiz Rogers. If you remember, it's very similar to that, because The backers can't kind of see over the line. By the time you sort of identify him, it's almost too late. You're at a disadvantage. And then when it's time to tackle him, that radius is very small. He sort of reminds me a little bit of like Quiz Rogers meets Maurice Jones-Drew. That's sort of how I think about Wayman Jordan. And I think that's where it's going to get really, really unique.
Another small guy in 2002, we had Darren Sproles at Kansas State, right? I mean,
yep,
those
exactly.
little guys that hide behind the line and just
exactly
burst out and small
it's too
target.
Late. By the time
low
you see
center
them, they're either running
gravity.
by you or you're at a total disadvantage.
Yeah. Well, let's go to happier days. Let's not talk about those guys.
When you make comps, I think people always think like projection. Like I'm not projecting him to be this level, but just seeing that center of gravity and seeing that one step cut and very similar size. Like I remember watching LaDainian Tomlinson. Like that was his bread and butter. Was get between the tackles, make that one step, cut out 5'10", 210, like very similar size. So I'm not saying he's going to be LaDainian Tomlinson and a future Hall of Famer. Obviously, we hope that, but that style and that size could see all that. And who doesn't want to get comped at LT?
Thank you to Slap Happy. Thank you so much. A longtime supporter of this show itself over various iterations of it. Appreciate you being here. Haven't seen you in a while, Slap Happy. Just to let you know, I have been looking, but appreciate you being here tonight. Guys, phone number 888-997-4539, 888-99-RILEY. Give us a call. Let us know. I'm kind of curious. I'll throw this out to you guys because you guys are a bit shy out there tonight. What would you guys rather see? Would you guys rather see USC put up 74 points? I don't know how. Okay, 74 points, or would you rather see a shutout? What would be more meaningful? Obviously, you can't take much away from either one of these games, but to you, which one would be more meaningful? Give us a call, 888-997-4539. You guys want to talk about the upcoming games? Should we pivot over to the Georgia Southern Eagles?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what would you rather have? Shutout or 74 points while we wait for someone to call in?
I just, we did it last year. Putting the defense, I don't care who you're playing. The defense holding a team to just off the board is really tough, especially usually you're going to give away those garbage points at the end of games, right? I mean, think back to when USC is dominating back in the day, and you have Oklahoma put up some garbage points at the end to get to 19. There's those garbage points are to get there late in games, even when you get dominated the whole game. But to get that goose egg up there, that's something special. I don't care who you're playing for a defense to hang their hat on, especially in modern football.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because I think it's also given the opponent what is the thing that's most translatable moving forward, right? And it's so, scoring 74 is awesome. It's great. But I would argue having a shutout is more translatable in terms of habits and outcomes to the rest of the schedule than scoring 74 against Georgia Southern. And it speaks to a discipline. It speaks to a completeness. It speaks to, never putting your foot off of the gas. Like, I don't care who you are. It's really hard to shut somebody out. To not give up one big play, some return, something happens to not, have that shutout. And so it's very, very special. Even if I'll be very honest with you. I mean, even 17-0, 20-0, but it's a 0. I'll take sort of any version of a shutout over 74 points because we've seen it. We've seen the ability for the offense to score 73 against lesser competition. I think taking that defense to the next level and hey, if the linebackers can anchor a shutout, even better, going into league play.
Jamal, if USC only scores 17 points on Saturday, the fans are going to tear down the Coliseum. So no. And also the 74, I don't know. It might be pretty great to see because that's either a couple of safeties or a hell of a lot of field goals. But Ryan, what do you think? What would you rather take?
Yeah, we'll go to is there call Wade? You can go to them first, and I'll answer on the back end of him.
All right. Hey, caller. Thanks for calling. Which name were you calling from?
Hey guys, this is Tim from Los Alamitos.
Tim from Los Alamitos, my doppelganger. How are you doing, sir?
Tim Langley, there he is.
Right.
How are you doing?
Tim Pringley. I'm doing good. I'm glad I called with Jamal on this. That's great. Missed you the last
Appreciate you,
few
Tim.
minutes, Jamal, but just so you know, this whole I go to the game, and I actually played out in my mind. You know, if they end up showing Clay Helton, I was actually just gonna not get anything, right, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be boost. And I agree. Again, it wasn't on Clay Helton at the end of the day, right? But I think what happens, it just conjures up these emotions. Very dark time that week. And, you know, I actually called in because I wanted to bring a point too. Like, what if somehow Pat Hayden or Juan showed up to a game, which I'd be sure they did, and they were all, I'm pretty sure they'll be boost. But I want to take it a step further, right? Those guys obviously, it was egregious what they did at ADs, but also egregious on who hired them. And it was always, oh, it's a Trojan, right? That was what they were always doing. Like, we got to hire either from the Pete Carroll tree, someone that was a Trojan. So it comes up to all the way to Mac, right? And those that made those decisions. And it culminated from that at the end of the day. But I will say though, right, Pat Hayden, unfortunately, he was the golden boy, right? I think that was his nickname, or do I get that wrong? I don't know. Whatever it was, that completely his legacy's changed. Juan, even worse, I think, when you hear stories of how he wanted to get paid for his signatures when some event. I don't know if any of you, if you guys can validate that, but bring that all up because that's where it really comes from, right? And it was Pat Hayden or was it Lynn Swan that extended Clay Helton? I can't remember. It was one of those two, right? But that's the ugliness of where it all comes from. And yeah, I didn't plan on booing Clay Helton. It just brings those emotions up. And I do have fond memories of that Rose Bowl. It was an amazing Rose Bowl. But give a lot of credit to Sam Darnold. I mean, he turned the keys over to Sam Darnold late that year, or not late, but after he starts, and then it was a match right then, right? But yeah, I don't know what do you guys think?
No one could ever take that Rose Bowl away from Helton, no matter how much they try. So I mean, that right there. I mean, I was in that end zone with my dad. I'll never forget that moment. Look on my dad's face when that kick went through the uprights. I mean, the way that game was going in the fourth quarter, just one of those phenomenal endings to a USC football game. That throw that Darnold had over the middle, just threaded it in there. I'm like, what a great game. So he could say hang his hat on that, but it got soured down the road. I mean, you know, the man was in over his head. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. Yep. We could have the argument how much support he was receiving, you know, because compared to like an Oregon. But like I said at the beginning, the Peter principle, you're going to go, a lot of coaches do this. They get to a certain level and they rise to what they can do. And then if they overstep, they usually come back down and end up at school like Georgia Southern. And I think that's probably where, you know, he's a guy from the South. I hope he can win enough games to keep going. Cause you know, it sucks when an old ball coach has to hang him up before he wants to. But I wish the man no ill will. I've never really, I didn't like the original hire. I mean, USC got played big time by his agent, got that huge that huge extension, but none of that's on Clay Helton. And anybody thinks that, remember the people used to say, well, why does he just quit and turn it in? Have you ever met anyone worth their salt? Is, you know, especially a football coach that's going to quit and say, I can't do this. I mean, these guys are built differently. As much as you want to take shots at Clay Helton, he's still a football coach. And these guys have a lot of pride in what they do. And they want to fight like hell, you know, not just, and I do believe this. I think Clay wanted to fight for his players. I mean, I think he really wanted to win. Unfortunately, I don't know your guys' thoughts on it, Jamal and Ryan, but he just wasn't a USC quality coach.
Yeah, no, Tim 1 and Tim 2, you know, you guys both bring up fantastic points. Look, I think Tim, you nailed it. You know, from a Colin perspective, Helton in many ways was the beneficiary of, you know, poor decisions further up the line. I will say, I mean, if Pat Hayden or Lynn Swan comes to the Coliseum now and moving forward, I mean, I hope they have like police detail. I mean, you know, that's probably the level of emotion that you're going to see from the fans with those two in particular. The way Hayden handled the Kiffin situation, right? Well, with Coach O, I mean, the list goes on and on. But I think you brought up a really good point. The buck kind of stops at the top here, and as much as he did such great things for the university, I mean, it's sort of on Max Nikias. I mean, Max is the one who put the ADs in charge, and the ADs are the ones who hired the coaches. And if you look at what the larger university was looking like in the 2010s under Max's leadership, that was sort of systemic across the board. Whether you were talking about the football program, or you were talking about the college, or you were talking about other parts of the university, he was in such a fundraising mindset that he didn't really give enough time to the day-to-day operation of the university across the football program and elsewhere. And when you don't make the right hires there, and you don't want to go down and in as a leader, then you're susceptible to erratic decisions like this, where, Hayden's deciding who's looks better in a polo at a country club than who can actually sort of, coach football. And I think that's the result of all this. So, Helton was the beneficiary. It's like, look, I'm not qualified to do this job, but you're going to pay me a ton of money and give me a long-term contract. I mean, it's foolish to say no. I mean, I'm not qualified to be the head coach of USC, but if somebody offered me that job tomorrow, I'm not going to say no, So there's also sort of an element to that where Helton is the beneficiary, but totally hear you on the association of Helton and those emotions. That makes a ton of sense.
Maybe Helton was a little ahead of his time, and he's the original Ted Lasso. Like, he was hired because they wanted him to fail, right? They were dooming him to fail, but unfortunately he did fail, where Ted Lasso obviously found some success overseas. But yeah, maybe that's
Helton. Actually, you know what, Brian, to your point, Helton might be the original Dion, of like, hey, let me get paid. And, I don't necessarily, I'm not going to necessarily win, but I'm getting paid, and I'm the beneficiary of that. So, what you're seeing with Dion in Colorado.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
Anything else for us, Tim?
No, this. Just onto all those points. I think it just makes a lot of. Wasn't Helton extended after that Rose Bowl though? And maybe I remember being on a high, and I was like, whatever. And that's the worst time to make those decisions. Doesn't it happen though? I can't remember. I felt like that's what happened.
Whoever made the decision did not look at how filthy rich that roster was. I mean, the guys on that team on both sides of the ball in that 2016 season. I mean, heck, you could have rolled the ball out there and you're going to get at least 8 wins, with that team. So I think, like I said, USC got played. That agent must have laughed all the way to the bank after he got that extension, because the only thing I think probably that was behind more at USC than the facilities at that point was probably the way they were running the athletic department, like it was 20 years before. Even back then, the game had changed. I mean, there was a lot going on in football, and USC just didn't have, like, I remember it was like the recruiting staff, right, that other schools had, not to mention the car dealerships and other things we won't get into, but I mean, there was a lot going on in college football, and USC just seemed like it was always reacting. If you're in any type of business, you don't want to be reacting to the latest trend. You want to be the ones pushing it. And then USC has been that one at the vanguard before, but after the NCAA sanctions, it's just terrible what USC did to itself. They did, Kiffin, we're talking about coaches that got kind of run out of here. Kiffin, in his defense, did a miraculous job at USC keeping this thing. I mean, he was laughing in the face of the NCAA the way he was going. But then obviously the numbers caught up to him, and then they canned him. I mean, here's one for you guys. I know a lot of you guys hate Kiffin out there, which I still don't understand. But imagine if they never fired Kiffin. Do you really think we would have been in a worse spot that we were in, 3-4 years later? Probably not. But anyway, thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Great call, man.
Thanks,
really
Tim.
appreciate you calling in. Fight on, Tim. Great calls always from Tim.
Tim Langley.
I tell you, another Tim from Los Alamitos. That was great the first time he called. That was
you guys got to go and meet on meet at Shoe Palace on Ball Road out there in Los Al or something.
Yeah, pretty good, Ryan. Good pull there.
Right?
I
used to live right by Los Al in Long Beach.
Let's say I lived really close. I lived really. That's why I saw Mackay Lemon. I was so high on Mackay Lemon because right up the street where my kids went to school is where he was playing ball. So that was something. Well, here's the number, guys: 888-997-4539. I don't know if I can keep these guys on much longer because I do believe that Jamal, you've got a show coming up for the UCLA show, correct?
That is correct. You know,
so if you want to get a call in, you better get it and call fast because I don't know if we're gonna be able to hang on to these guys much longer.
Here, we'll give we can give these people a little ad read here, pay the bills, and also maybe something to call about because you know we got this new ad sponsor, Sleeper. There it is. Many of you may have heard of it before. If you haven't, it's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more. Gentlemen, I don't know if you know this, but it has live stats, so real-time updates, visualizations on all stats. It's got a news feed. A lot of our tweets probably end up in those news feeds. It has a real-time chat. You can engage with other players with, you know, NCAA games, obviously, NFL, NBA, all the others. So if you download the #1 sports app today, make sure to use the promo code USC LAFB for a match deposit up to $100. Once again, if you put in $100, use the promo code USC LAFB. They're going to match you up to that $100. The pick'em game is amazing. Jaden Mava, gentlemen, is he going to have over 250 yards this week? More or less. What do you think?
Timbo?
So we already said he's to play one half. 250. That's gonna be that's
295 last week.
Yeah, I think that although their run defense was very questionable, I think that they're gonna face a little bit better secondary. But yeah, no, I think that they give him so much fits, they're gonna have a hard time stopping Wayman Jordan. So they might have to go with the heavy box, which means you're gonna put some of those guys, our receivers, one-on-one. Yeah, I'll take the over 250 any day.
Okay, more Madman or Madman?
I'm gonna go under just for you know. I think when you just to keep it interesting, you know, when you look at Georgia Southern, Ryan, you referenced it against Fresno State. They gave up 351 yards rushing to Fresno State. They gave up, you know, 550 overall, but 350 on the ground. I just get the feeling this is a game for Jordan, Sanders, and Jackson all to kind of really go crazy. Maeva's, I think, going to play a half again. And I got a feeling Mava may throw less than 10 times in this game. So unless, you know, we're going 30 yards a pop, you know, on the throws, which is possible. But I'm just going to sort of take the under there just because of usage.
Okay.
Ryan, do you want to let Jamal know that Lincoln Riley's still the head coach at USC? just want to put that out there.
Okay,
Tim, if he doesn't run against Georgia Southern, he's never going to run. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here, you know?
Yeah.
That is something. Only 9 passes from Mava. Okay, 2 more while we're waiting for calls. Jacoby Lane, kind of a quiet game. Only played a half, obviously. 3 catches last week. What do you think? More or less than 6 catches against Georgia Southern? Or we'll go 5.5, so it's an easy either.
I'll take the over. Yeah.
Okay. 6 or more. Okay. Madman?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go over here too. I think that, you know, I think this is one of those games where you're very intentional with who you're going to try and get the ball to. You know, game 1 felt more like Mackay's game and, you know, he was the primary. I think there'll be a little bit more of an emphasis, particularly early, to get Lane the ball. So I think he's going to have, you know, 6 to 7 catches in this game.
Okay, you heard it first. Madman, Maeva is going to have 9 pass attempts, 6 of them going to Jacoby Lane. Well done.
That's what happens when you play Georgia Southern. Strange things like that.
6 targets, 6 catches.
Hey,
look at that.
Blake McCree looked like a Dory Jackson last week. So, you know, there's interesting things happen early in the season here, particularly with this schedule.
There you go. And okay, lastly, one with this. I agree. Running game is going to look great. I think the 250 or so rushing yards last week. I think that's a very easy number to hit again this week when you see what Fresno State did. Wayman Jordan, though, by himself, more or less than 100 yards as he crossed the century mark for the first time as a Trojan.
Easily, yeah. I think he goes like 125 at least.
All right, 120. I like that. I think he'll go over 100. But I think they're gonna sort of pepper it around. But I think Jordan will go over 100, and there may be 200-yard rushers in this game for SC.
Ooh, well, there you have it. Brought to you by our new friends at Sleeper. All right. There, I got my bid in. So we're good.
Well, looks like we are not getting any more calls. Appreciate you guys all for being here. Any final thoughts about the Clay Helton Bowl, you guys, before we get out of here?
We gonna pick a score, gentlemen?
Oh, we better do that. Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, we can do that. Who wants to go first?
Timbo's kicking us off.
Oh, I get to go first. All right.
So we'll see if Tim thinks a shutout or if they're going to score 74. I guess this is where we're going to find out.
Well, see, I said 6 points last game, and you did have that blown coverage, which led to that late first half touchdown. So I'm gonna stay with my 6. But this time I said 56-6. I'm gonna go with 52-6 in this game.
52-6. Okay, Madman.
Man, Tim almost stole mine. I was gonna say 52-7. In this game, I think it'll be dominant. It won't be close. There's a world where, particularly if you're running the ball a little bit more clock on each possession. So maybe a little bit of a shorter game from a possession standpoint. And I also think, just given the way Lincoln's been talking this week, I don't know if he's really going to pound the foot on the gas here, particularly late in the game, and really run it up on Clay Helton. So I see it being a little bit more of a cruise to the finish line. I got SC 52-7.
Yeah. What's funny is that was, you could kind of tell that was the attempt last week, was like, all right, we don't want to absolutely throttle these guys, and guys just kept breaking 70-yard touchdown runs or picking it off and putting it in the red zone. I was on the Light the Torch podcast earlier tonight. Thanks, gentlemen, for having me on. And so I'll do the same prediction. I said 56-10 there. We're all pretty aligned here with our 50s. So 56-10. Madman, you and I did a prediction last week. I predicted a shutout, and they gave up a field goal on the very first possession. So I'm not going to go shutout this week, but I think 56-10 is in the cards.
Last chance to get on the record. We got some good scores here. Archer's really going for another big time offense. He probably has a couple pick sixes in there with that 77 as well. 69-2. Look at that. Gabe feeling very bullish. Interesting numbers there, Gabe.
Yeah.
Well done.
Very interesting numbers indeed.
Well done.
Intentional, I think there.
All right. Well, listen, this guy. So this is the ones I look. This is the one I look for. I like this. Where is it? Where is that guy? Get to the calls and quit yapping. Ravens, I've been waiting for your call all night. That's the kind of caller that I dream about having. So you got about 30 seconds if you want to. 888-997-4539. Otherwise, we're going to catch all of you guys next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Also, you guys, those of you guys, appreciate you. We had close to 600 people here between Twitter and YouTube. The story is we're trying to build a YouTube channel. So I think going forward, Ryan, I think we'll probably do the first 10 minutes on Twitter, and then we're going to move over to YouTube. But appreciate you all being here. The fun's here in the chat, though, you guys. So come on over here to YouTube. Help us build this channel. Help us build this community. If you guys like what you're seeing, make sure you hit that subscribe button and like. Again, all that stuff helps. Let us know in the comment section. What do you think the final score is going to be? Again, you saw it 50s here. We saw a couple guys with 70. Get here on record. Get in the comment section. Let us know. Otherwise, for Ryan and for Jamal, I'm Tim, and I'm going to see all you guys next week. Fight on, you guys.